Is Todd Boehly closing in on Chelsea Football Club? Will the Blues have a new owner by the time they play their next Premier League game? Will they be stabilised? Will the new ownership offer Chelsea everything they need and support Thomas Tuchel? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I do hope you're doing well, and I really do hope that. Welcome back to, of course, Chelsea News, the daily series where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it, but more importantly asking for yours. Of course, today is deadline day. In terms of bidders, the Rain Group, who are handling the sale of Chelsea, have given until 9 p.m. today to get their bids in. But it's not just about the bids will come in, and it's not the highest bidder wins. It's not an auction. It's who puts in a decent amount, but also can prove they will be a worthy owner of Chelsea, and also can prove they will pass the owners and directors test quickly. And Todd Boehly and his consortium have long been the front runners for this, and we're going to reference and cite an article today from Matt Law of The Telegraph, who is very close to Chelsea Football Club and almost gets everything right. So settle in and get comfortable. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'd urge you to subscribe, and thank you if indeed you like the video. It takes a second, a click of a button, and it's a way of supporting the channel. I'm going to take you through this article. Of course, I'll link the article down in the description and urge you to check out The Telegraph. And we're going to reflect on Matt's article, which was published this evening. Of course, things are happening very quickly. Todd Boehly's Chelsea takeover can be completed by the next Premier League game as the deadline looms. Boehly's group have made it clear they have the funding and infrastructure to take charge by Brentford's visit on the 2nd of April. So that's Chelsea's next Premier League game at home. Right. Before we get into this, I want to stress to you the importance of a quick turnover, I suppose turnover and takeover both work. The new owner has to come in quickly to stabilise Chelsea, to make sure Chelsea doesn't get into any form of financial ruin. And also, the quicker they come in, the quicker they can pass the owners and directors test, and depending on who they are as suitors, that can happen quite quickly. So that's really important in terms of Chelsea functioning normally for the rest of the season, sanctions being lifted before the next Champions League game, etc, etc. So I wanted to emphasise on the importance of that. Oh look, there's the subscribe and like widget reminding you to like and subscribe. Okay, so just in case, so Todd Boehly has provided Rain. Of course, the Rain Group are the people looking after the sale, the bank in charge of the sale of Chelsea, with proof that he could complete a takeover in time for the club's next Premier League game, against Brentford in just 2 weeks. On Friday's deadline for bids, when potential buyers have until 9 p.m. UK time to submit their official offers, Boehly's group made it clear that they have the funding and infrastructure in place to take charge of the club for this game against Brentford. Boehly, whose bid is between 2 billion and 2.5 billion pounds, believes his group can offer Chelsea the immediate stability and certainty at a time when the club cannot currently sell tickets and are facing huge financial difficulties if a takeover is not completed quickly. So that's essentially emphasising the point I made before I read that. It needs to happen quickly. In terms of the bid itself, between 2 and 2.5 billion, say 2.25. Of course, a bid has come in for Chelsea before in 2018 for 2.2. Roman rejected it, but of course the climate has changed. And now it's about getting a fair price for Chelsea, or a good price for Chelsea, not the best price for Chelsea. A good price provided they can continue functioning immediately like normal. Okay, so the sale needs to be completed quickly. Rain have stressed the need for the sale to be completed quickly, warning bidders that their first offer could be treated as their best and final offer, and that only 1 to 3 groups are likely to progress past Friday night's deadline for offers. So, of course, free bids might be accepted. And again, it's not the highest bidder. I'm sure they won't be telling each other how high they're bidding, although maybe there'll be some influence in more money. But generally, it's not who wants to pay most to buy this item. It doesn't work like that. So they might take in free buyers, free, potential owners, and they go, right, you three have made it to the next round, and then they'll analyse them individually. I think what we could assume at this point that Boehly is certainly going to be one of those three, but Matt's article does suggest, and we'll go on to read more, that maybe he is the front runner and indeed possibly will become Chelsea's owner. With the UK government needing to green light a bid because of the sanctions placed on Roman, the Boehly Group are confident they would quickly get government and Premier League approval if the bid is passed. So essentially, the Todd Boehly Consortium with Hans-Jörg Vist and the Spurs fan, they are confident that should their bid get accepted, they could present their accounts, their intentions, their infrastructure, their plans to the Premier League and the relative governing bodies, and they feel like they would fly through the owners and directors test, which again is important. It happens quickly. Whether Saudi media are related to the Saudi government or not, you'd imagine their analysis and owners and directors tests would take longer. To be honest, some of the other Americans as well, I think their test would take longer. But it does seem like the Boehly Consortium, if we're reading this right, would be the quickest, accepted the quickest. Let's read on. It had appeared the Ricketts family, so people do not want the Ricketts family is the general consensus, which includes Ken Griffin, who was worth £20 billion. Now, he joined the consortium and beefed up their financial might for this bid, had the biggest finance behind it. But it has emerged that the Boehly's group, which include Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Vist and Jonathan Goldstein, that's the Tottenham fan, is also working with Clear Lake Capital. Just on Jonathan Goldstein, I heard Matt Law speak on the Londoners Blue podcast about this. He's a property expert and largely would be brought in for the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge, and probably that's his main sort of role in the consortium. It wouldn't be some peculiar inside job from a Tottenham fan. That just doesn't happen at that level of business. So yes, of course, Boehly's consortium working with Clear Lake Capital. Now, who are they? The California investment firm has over £45.5 billion of assets under management, and their involvement underlines Boehly's ability to not only take control and run the club, but also invest heavily into the future. Now, on this, what we know about Todd Boehly is he wants to win. He's not an American. So far what we can read out of the reports is he's not going to be a Glazer-esque Manchester United ownership in terms of taking out money over the club. He wants to win and compete. That's what he's done with his American franchise sport. He invests. He wants to buy good players in the team, and you marry that with a manager like Thomas Tuchel, who doesn't demand amazing players. He knows he's got good players. With better scouting, we don't make recent mistakes. Todd Boehly does seemingly look like an owner who will invest in Chelsea and, more importantly, want to win. Okay, Telegraph Sport understands Boehly's group have already looked into the costing and the feasibility of redeveloping Stamford Bridge on its current site and are confident as a project it could be successfully complete. Right, so let's just talk on that quickly. A lot of Chelsea fans have been scared of the relocation of Stamford Bridge in terms of redeveloping, because actually redeveloping where it is poses loads of difficulties. But what's being suggested in this article here is that Boehly's consortium have looked at it and they're like, yeah, we don't have to move Stamford Bridge. We can redevelop it. We can make it better where it is. We have the means to do that, and the plans and the vision to do that, which would seem good on the surface. Okay, so sources close to the Ricketts Griffin Consortium, which have a bunch of skeletons in their closet that people are finding and don't like, insisted their bid would be launched before the deadline, while the spokesperson for the group, fronted by Lord Sebastian Coe and Sir Martin Broughton, insisted everything was on track for their offer to go in. So by all accounts, their offer will go in. There was no confirmation on Friday whether the British businessman Nick Candy, who's been working with Vialli, would get his bid in. People still wonder if they have the money to do it, essentially. The C&P Sports Group and Hana Financial Group claimed they would make a bid ahead of the deadline, with Catalina Kim, CEO of C&P, saying, quote, "We are preparing a bid. There has never been an investment from a top-tier football club by a South Korean capital before. It's time for change." You know, there you go, South Korea trying to get involved as well in Chelsea Football Club. A community of Chelsea fans attempted crowdfunding enough money to buy at 10% stake in the club. So I guess that's the one with John Terry and the NFTs and stuff that I'm not going to get into now. Given Rain have stressed the need for groups to provide certainty, the project appeared optimistic. Oak Tree Capital and the Saudi Media Group have also been linked with bids for Chelsea, but there was no word on either group on Friday afternoon. Now, in terms of Oak Tree Capital and Saudi Media, because there's no word, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not doing anything. Of course, we know in football, often when there's no news that you hear, a lot of stuff happens in the background. We know that sometimes the talkers aren't necessarily the buyers, but from what this article is saying is Todd Boehly isn't necessarily a talker. He hasn't put himself in front of cameras, but the interest is seemingly really real. And the data that we've got from this article is he could take over before Chelsea's next Premier League game. He could offer immediate funds to stabilise the structure and workings of Chelsea. He would be confident in redeveloping Stamford Bridge where it is without relocating. And if you historically look at Todd Boehly, he wants to win and he will invest in sports players in his team. And also, there's of course that video clip of Boehly speaking against the European Super League, which for many of you and me personally is a really important factor. Of course, whether Boehly would accept this fan on the board, you know, inclusion, which is potentially a very, very positive shift in Premier League football. Certainly this European Premier League football giants like Chelsea, if you could get fans on the board, that would be massive. So this is where we're at. Bids are coming in. I'm sure lots of stuff's going on in the background as we speak. I will, of course, react to it as quick as possible. Please do consider dropping a like on the video and make sure you, when you do sub, turn the bell on, because you want to be one of the first to find out this epic information. Make sure you check out the Telegraph article in the link below in the description. Enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.